Hell yeah, it's finally here, guys. Shadow of the Erdtree. Now, it's time to talk about bosses. Yes, I might have just played 16 hours straight for 2 days in a row just to get these videos out for you guys. I might be deranged. I think I might have had madness inflicted upon me. But believe me, it's worth it. Shadow of the Erdtree has been an unforgettable experience, and now it's time to rank the bosses from easiest to hardest, at least the main bosses that I think are worth talking about. I'm sure I probably missed a few, but hey, I've done all I can, and let's get into it. Shadow of the Erdtree has cranked the difficulty way up. Melania, move aside, there's a new top dog in town, but we'll get to that. And now, let's start with number 13, Romina, Saint of the Bud. I stuck with my grafted greatsword build from my first ever Elden Ring playthrough for this DLC, so keep in mind, a basic colossal sword build isn't going to balance the same way as every other person's going to balance. If you're a magic user, a dex build, a bleed abuser, whatever it is, these bosses are going to function differently for every person. So remember to keep that in mind when we're ranking these bosses. These are different for everyone. And this is just my ranking of my personal experience. There is no objective difficulty ranking. With all that said, Quelaag version 3.0 is a sight for sore eyes. To be honest, a lot of the DLC pummeled me into a pulp. This was a grueling experience, especially doing everything solo with a grafted greatsword, and jumping in at just around level 120, I think I was. So pulling up to a boss like this and rolling her in a couple of tries provided a much needed confidence and morale boost. I noticed there were quite a few times where Romina would inexplicably just miss. It's like she was struggling with poor eyesight. Maybe she got some scarlet rot in her eye or something. Or maybe she pulled her eye out like some other guy in this game, which this game's crazy, man. In any case, with a few misses here and there, this led to a lot of open opportunities for me to wail away at her, build up posture damage, and lead to an eventual riposte. There were a lot of things that caught me off guard. For one, the speed of this ground slam was just impressive. Feels like if you blink, she just teleports from skyscraper height to right on top of you. Romina ends up being the easiest in a sea of really tough challenges. Number 12, Scadutree Avatar. Yeah, I have no idea if I'm saying that right, so feel free to let me know in the comments, I'm sure you will. God damn, that was an easy boss. Only took a few. Okay, Jesus, finally. Just gave me flashbacks to the Guardian Ape. What the fuck? Why won't you die? I found this boss quite late in my playthrough, meaning I had gathered enough of the Scadutree fragments to make this boss pretty trivial. How would it have been if I just headed straight here when it was first available? Probably pretty hard, but it felt like it just died in a few hits. Well, it did, but it took 3 kills. Why? Because it's funny to troll the players. I swear Miyazaki is just giggling like a schoolgirl somewhere knowing he did this to us. In any case, despite the Scadutree Avatar coming across as kind of a side boss, it really does have the deep and complex moveset you'd expect from any boss near the top of this list. The difference was the health and damage. There were a few moves that can really trip you up. For example, the final phase Holy Explosion is just, I have no idea how to dodge this properly. I'd just heal and pray to America. The charge is also surprisingly quick and not really punishable, and the homing magic varies from phase to phase, meaning different dodges and strategies are required for attacks that appear to be very similar. So damage will be taken here, and it would be really challenging to flawless this boss. But I found it really easy to find openings to punish the boss, and I felt the health and damage was scaled to a really reasonable place, something that is definitely not true for the top of this list. Number 11, Divine Beast Dancing Lion. These translated titles need some work, man. To me though, the hardest challenge in this fight was trying to tell what the heck was going on. The camera sometimes goofed the heck out. And then you had this amorphous blob that was the boss, where you had to try to figure out what was going on. The boss really does function as a Margit, or at least it did for me. I came in here all cocky and I got a mega booty clapped right at the start of the DLC, and then quickly learned that I had not used any of my fragments, and that those were actually really important. Very important. I don't think I even got close to learning this boss either, to be fair, but this was just one that I could manage to tank quite a few hits if you take advantage of the wide open world of upgrades. This was not something that you can do in the final bosses because you've already gotten all the upgrades, meaning the versatility of approach here makes this fight a lot more doable. And this fight is actually quite tame until phase 2. This is where the huge variety of attacks, various elemental states, and never before seen attack types really just confused me. On a first encounter, how the heck are you supposed to know how to approach the swirling spit of doom? Like, this just scared me as much as the dancer spinning, to be honest. But with a few upgrades, this one is pretty easy to just power your way through. Number 10, Golden Hippopotamus. On paper, this boss really shouldn't be too hard, but goddamn did some of the hitboxes just seem to do me dirty. I feel like I was yelling at my screen every death for some reason. The slow as charge into grab was something that slipped me up time and time again, and I found it really hard to punish a lot of his more mobile moves. When phase 2 hits, I had a lot of chip damage also slowly building up, leading to wasted flasks and untimely deaths. And because of the insane amount of spikes on the hippo's head, it can be kind of hard to tell what's actually happening from time to time in the second half of the fight, leading to some moments where you might just get caught up on the wall and bleh. All in all though, this is more of a straightforward fight than you tend to find in Elden Ring. Number 9, Metyr, Mother of Fingers. This is one of the bosses that horribly abuses delayed attacks, my arch nemesis. Getting the timing down requires patience, and I've uploaded an Elden Ring video days after the DLC came out. Do I look like I have patience? Additionally, because the boss has its fingies all over its sides, there is no respite in snuggling up close to the boss. That's usually my safe zone. Combos will span an unexpectedly long range and easily catch you off guard. Also, I could not figure out this spinning attack. For the love of God, just land, man! We all know that there are certain bosses that specifically target the weaknesses that you have as a player. Maybe you're a little too aggressive, or maybe you always dodge backwards, which leaves you open to directional punishes. My problem is that I always seem to roll a little bit too early, so delayed attacks just get me good. While Metyr can spawn hand babies, they end up being more of like a nuisance than anything to really worry about. And that triple laser is impossible to dodge. How do you get all three? Somebody let me know. So have patience, stay away from the side, and this one should be alright. Number 8, Midra, Lord of Frenzied Flame. This guy just crumpled under my plus 15 Scadutree fragment stacking. I found myself reposting him time and time again. However, I could easily tell that the moveset was nothing to scoff at, as I got caught over and over. If it wasn't for a few of these timely reposts, I think I would have been in real trouble. When he's just swinging and swanging his sword around, things are actually kind of manageable. The problem comes in when the Chaos Flame comes to play. The madness meter starts building up, and AoEs are covering the entire arena. Part of this ranking is based off the hypothetical though, as if I based this on my amount of deaths, he actually would have been the easiest in the entire DLC. I can easily recognize, however, that because I found this section late in my playthrough, that this would have been a moveset that would have challenged me a lot more if I met him earlier in the DLC. Let me know how this guy ranked for you, because I'm actually not 100% sure where to put him. Number 7, Putrescent Knight. Putrescent Knight is this like really weird horse rider combo, and there's this one really long, really cool combo where he's like jumping off the horse and then he's coming out of the ground and flying. You gotta do a lot of dodging. This boss, like a few that I've said on this list, was actually pretty hard for me to track when the boss was attacking, when it was repositioning itself, when it was setting up for another move. Like, because of these weird erratic movements, like I just could not track what this boss was doing. And then when you get that phase transition and the flame comes through, trying to dodge all of those was really challenging. And when I also did this fight, the damage was insanely high on me. So as much as this boss would, I guess, would probably be easier for most people, I really found it challenging. I would just come back here later. This boss would become a lot easier for me. It was really hard to read the boss, and therefore I ended up taking a lot of unnecessary damage. Number 6, Commander Gaius. I cannot stand rider bosses. I put them both here for a reason. They are both so challenging. This gave me flashbacks to the Draconic Tree Sentinel, which, as you guys know, was my arch nemesis in the base game. And this was like a souped up version of that, or maybe even like the Falling Star Beast, like these riding bosses that just, you really have to time your dodges perfectly. They feel so tanky, they feel so insurmountable. And this guy's got a lot of mobility, a lot of tankiness, and the mobility makes it hard to really follow up an attack of his with a punish of your own. That's actually what makes both of these pretty hard, is that you end up missing quite often when they're riding and they're such fast bosses. Number 5, Rellana, Twin Moon Knight. The speed and range of this guy gets me. Plus the damage. Well, I guess that's just everything a boss does. Huh. It can often feel like with Rellana that a combo might have the inkling of ending, and then nope, it's got 4 or 5 more bad boy swings in there. It's even possible that in a replay of this DLC that this boss wouldn't list quite this high, but it really hits as a reality check that this is not the base game. We ain't in Kansas anymore. When it comes to the Divine Beast, Dancing Lion boss, the only boss I had faced prior to this, I could have been fooled into thinking it was the base game, but when Rellana comes by, you know something's gone up a notch. In fact, a lot of the speed and grace of this battle evokes Malenia without the healing, and Waterfowl, and boobs. So there are massive arena-wide combos, magic to dodge, and multiple elements in a rapid-paced sword battle. The killer really though is that final combo, which you can actually have done everything perfect. If you don't know how to dodge this and you get caught in it, it will lead to pretty much an instant death. The first explosion of the moon will set you into the air until you're ping-ponged around like a ping pong. Jumping is your key to salvation here. Good luck, Tarnished. Number 4, Messmer the Impaler. It's actually amazing how pretty much every boss at this point on, like the first times you're facing them, you legitimately will feel like they are impossible to beat. Until you then do, a few tries later. It's actually amazing. I love feeling the progression in this game, by the way. While I found Messmer to be more intuitive to dodge than Rellana, the difference here was the variety of attacks. Messmer has these massive arena-covering combos that can switch up with different follow-ups, and Phase 2 alters the fight in such a significant way with the huge snakes, like Shadow of Yharnam style, that you have to keep track of that, where Rellana is really just an augmentation of the fight that already existed. So in any other reasonable DLC, this would be the peak of challenge, but of course, this is FromSoft we're talking about, guys. There are some times where the fire Messmer throws at you, or the fire that comes spilling out of his weapon, will actually obscure your vision, leading to a brief moment of confusion as you flounder around trying to predict his next move. It's not BS though, it's actually pretty fair. And the rapid pacing of Phase 2 can't be overstated. Your camera will be flying from left to right, up and down, forwards and backwards, under and over, and any momentary slip up can lead to pretty much instant death. So for such a huge variety of challenges, Messmer ends at number 4 on our list. Now this one might be a hot take. Number 3, Needle Knight Leda and her friends. Yep, this boss was the only boss that I resorted to summoning. I know guys, I'm sorry, please don't kill me. But it's not fair, they can bring 3 friends all together and I have to play by myself, come on. To be fair though, all I did was add one little guy, he didn't do much damage, and he dies in one combo. But I gotta be real though, the distraction was enough to make this doable. I tried this dozens of times solo, and I don't know if I would have been able to do it on my own without finding some more upgrades. Getting chased by that dude and Leda is something that will forever haunt my nightmares. No matter how much you run, they just keep coming and coming. They jump attack, they have spells, and they always have a chance of one-shotting you, and in case you get them low, well, they'll heal. And because there was no like obstacles in the arena, as we've all talked about a million times before, no pillars, nothing to break the aggro, it was really hard for me to balance all of this. Now, I'm not actually gonna go as far as to say it was complete BS. I need to stew on this a little bit more and think about it, but this was an extremely tough challenge for me that was really a DPS test. You needed to get damage in fast and kill people as fast as you could so that you could then face one-on-ones over and over again. I simply did not have that damage. Honestly, I'd love to hear what your experience was with this fight though, as I found this to be almost unbearably hard solo. So why don't you guys let me know down in the comments. Number 2, Bayle the Dread. What a beast. This is like Metyr 2.0 with the same head-focused strategy as the previous man, or dragon. The camera provides a tiny bit of a challenge here, but for the most part, this is an honest duel. The amount of follow-ups in Phase 2 makes doing any damage take forever, and I mean that. This fight lasted for 6 minutes. I repeat, 6 minutes with a one-shot time bomb available at any time. And look at my damage, it's pathetic. You might have to dodge 8 attacks in a row before you can get a hit in, and it does that little tiny little pipsqueak of damage. There are lightning, fire, ranged, grabs, flying attacks, explosives, ranged, close. This is just the biggest cacophony of insanity ever. There's just so much in this fight. It's a lot to keep track of, but it's actually quite learnable. It's really easy to start learning what he's going to do next, and I really encourage you to just approach with the strategy of learning from time to time. Every time I go into a fight and I'm desperate to kill the boss, I might try to sneak attacks here and there. The reality is, the more patience you have to actually just look, analyze the boss, learn the moves, you're gonna notice yourself improving a lot quicker over time. I actually found this boss to be quite manageable after just a little bit of studying. It does require very consistent performance though, so take that with what you will. And number 1 is Radahn, Consort of Miquella. Yeah, I haven't beaten this guy yet. He's just too hard. Video over. I'm actually not kidding though, like I cannot beat this boss with my build. I don't know how I will do this. I've gotten to phase 2 a couple of times in, I can't even tell you how many tries. It's been insane how much damage this boss does, how little room for error there is, how long his combos are, how many moves he has, and this is without even fully familiarizing myself with phase 2, which is just absolutely disgustingly insane. There's a point where challenge becomes almost unenjoyable, and this is definitely pushing the limits. I will tell you right now, to me, this is way harder than Melania. Now, to be fair, I have not looked up any guides. I don't know what I'm missing. There might be something that significantly increases the ease at which this fight can be completed. I don't summon, and I use my one little sword. Part of it is just simply, it combines all of the elements of Elden Ring that make a challenging boss. There's constant delays on attacks. The range on his attacks are significantly longer than you would expect. There's changes in his combos depending on where you're standing, if you're closer or further, if you dodge something, if you don't. You can never know what's really coming next. And even your punishes are challenged. So like, there's one hit where he slams the ground and then you're like, oh, I'm good to go, but then there's gonna be another lift up there, but if you stand in the right spot, it's never ending. And when you get to phase 2, it's hard to even tell what's happening. I don't know how to do it. So I know this list wouldn't have covered every single boss in the DLC. I was just covering the main bosses and the bosses I wanted to talk about. If there are any huge bosses that I've missed, let me know down in the comments, because I'm going to be coming out with a ranking of the quality of the DLC bosses very shortly, so subscribe and stay tuned for that. And also keep an eye out, because I want to be setting up a poll for you guys to rank the bosses in this DLC very shortly, so stay tuned, subscribe. Elden Ring has been a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and I feel so blessed to have been able to share this experience with you guys. I cannot wait to tell you guys what I think about the quality. I've been very particularly vague with my thoughts on these bosses, at least where I could be, because I'm really excited to share my quality rankings with you, so be sure to stay tuned for that. I feel honored. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. I hope you have an amazing day. Let me know what your thoughts are down below. Peace.